This is every single fight to make after UFC Fight Night San Diego Vera versus Cruz. I've got all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them, and that's where the next opponent's going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen. I'll slowly reveal those opponents one by one as the video goes on and place them where they belong on the screen. We're going to start straight away with the main event. Marlon Vera left me in a very sad mood today because I'm just sick of seeing veterans and legends of the sport face first on the canvas, and Vera's done it again, and it really hurt me, and I've been hurt today by it. But either way, I picked him to win. Marlon Vera gets it done. And I think he should be taking on the winner of Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley, which takes place in October at UFC 280 on the main card. And the winner of that one will take on Marlon Vera, in my opinion, on another main card of a pay-per-view. Marlon Vera was already supposed to be fighting Petr Yan, but they wanted Yan to be on the October pay-per-view. And I guess Marlon Vera didn't want to wait around and wanted to stay active. And they gave him Dominick Cruz, and I'm assuming he liked the style matchup for himself. So he took that fight. He's moved himself further up the rankings. And I think him versus the winner of Yan versus O'Malley makes complete sense to me. Unless Merab Dvalishvili beats Jose Aldo, if that happens, the winner of Yan versus O'Malley could be seeing themselves fight for a title. And then I would imagine they're probably going to do Merab versus Marlon Vera. But supposing Aldo beats Merab, or a bunch of things go the way they could go, I reckon they're going to do the winner of Yan versus O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. I only put Yan's face there because I believe he's going to beat Sean O'Malley by third round TKO is what I'm predicting in that fight. So I think we're going to see Marlon Vera, Petr Yan, and I think it's a great matchup, and I think it's a great fight to see. And I'm definitely going to be tuning into that one with high expectations of how it's going to go. And I feel like if it's a 5-rounder, Marlon Vera is going to have a chance, but I would be picking Petr Yan to win that matchup regardless, but definitely if it's a 3-rounder. That's the only difference. So I'm looking forward to that if it happens, and if Sean O'Malley pulls off the upset against Marlon Vera, you could argue one top 15 win, even though it is over number one in the division. Petr Yan isn't enough to get a title shot, especially because Marlon Vera has arguably put in more work than Sean O'Malley and also has a win over Sean O'Malley, so in that case they could do Vera versus O'Malley instead. We move on to another matchup. Dominick Cruz lost. I'm just seeing him in my head face down now, and it's sad, but either way, Dominick Cruz versus, I know a lot of people are saying Frankie Edgar. Edgar said he wants Cruz for his last fight. I feel like casual MMA fans don't understand the idea of time and the time-space continuum and the fact that time goes on and it's a constant thing that we can't just control and make up. Edgar's ready to go now. Okay? Cruz is not going to be ready to go for quite some time. That's all I'm going to say. So, if I was Dominick Cruz, there's a fighter that has a win over him before, and this is the only reason I would stay around if I was Dominick Cruz, because you don't want to lose to another random guy and all of a sudden your legacy is destroyed. You want to, if you're going to fight someone, you want to redeem legacy. You want to gain legacy from something. So, there's a guy who has a win over Cruz, who's fighting Rani Yahya in October, and if he wins, he's going to be ranked in the top 15 again because he's still a former champion of the division. He'll likely be ranked number 13. Cruz is probably going to drop down to number 10. The rematch between Dominick Cruz and Cody Garbrandt, a true test for people wondering if Garbrandt will ever make it back to the top, is if he can repeat what he did against Dominick Cruz, who's looking improved himself. That will show that Cody Garbrandt has also improved. And also, one thing I want to mention is Dominick Cruz, Cody Garbrandt. Cruz hasn't got the most power in the world, so it's a decent matchup for Garbrandt anyway. And I think this would be a true test of who's still improving out of the two of them. Is Cruz really improving as much as we assume that he is based on how he's looking? And is Cody Garbrandt able to improve and get himself back towards the top of that division? I think this would be one of the only things that could entice Dominick Cruz back in to the cage again. I don't think he's going to be looking to, oh yeah, give me Said Nurmagomedov. I don't see that happening or anything like that. Or Ricky Simone. Never going to happen. So I think you need to entice him with an ability to fix his legacy. He just sort of tarnished a bit of legacy, losing to Marlon Vera. Entice him back in about 6 months' time, maybe in January, February, something like that, with a guy who can fix his legacy if he can redeem a win over. You know what I'm saying? Dominick Cruz, Cody Garbrandt, or if Dillashaw loses to Aljo and slips down the rankings a bit, I wouldn't mind a Dillashaw-Cruz rematch either. Moving on to another fight, Nate Landwehr, massive win in the co-main event, A Star Was Born, and he called out some names, but I don't want to see him fight those names because, again, time exists. Shane Burgos ain't going to fight Nate Landwehr. Shane Burgos is ranked. He's going to be looking for top contenders. And he called out Billy Quarantillo. That doesn't make any sense. Quarantillo's going to be looking to get back in there real soon. I need Nate Landwehr to take off at least 4 months, maybe earliest come back December, maybe January. I think Bill Aljo just had a fight with Herbert Burns. He's not going to be in a rush to get back in there anytime soon. So I feel like we should be doing Nate Landwehr versus Bill Aljo. Both very entertaining on the microphone. Both have very entertaining fight styles where they play it up for the crowd. I think that would be a great fight on the feature fight of a fight night card. Make it happen. Nate the Train versus Bill Aljo in the featherweight division. And then if he wins that one, then we can start talking about the names that he's considering matching up against, because not right yet is he ready to jump all the way up. He did just beat, of course, David Onama. I know he was a hyped up prospect, but again, 1-0 at featherweight in the UFC, so let's be real. Moving on to another matchup. David Onama, speaking of him, got a loss, terrible loss, needs to take a lot of time off. It was a close fight, but you really should be beating the Nate Landwehrs of the division if you're going to be anything. So David Onama, I think, needs to take a little bit of time off and face off against Charles Rosa, who also needs to take a little bit of time off because of his Nathaniel Wood fight. He took so much damage in that fight, so I feel like in January, February next year, we should be seeing David Onama versus Charles Rosa. Make the fight happen. I think that would be a good bounce-back opponent for David Onama. And it'd also give Charles Rosa one more chance in the UFC to go out there and get something done, which I think he's earned because of the entertainment value, even though he lost his last fight. Moving on to another matchup. Gerald Meerschaert, GM3, does it again in the third round by guillotine. He gets it done over Bruno Silva. And, GM3, very dangerous fighter. And we now need to match him up in the middleweight division. He called someone out, so this makes my job very easy. Andre Petroski. He actually called out Andrew Petroski, so maybe I've got the wrong guy here. But I feel as though GM3 versus Andre Petroski is natural progression in a division for Andre Petroski. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak right now. First 2 guys were bottom feeders. Next guy was Nick Maximov in an upset win. So that's a pretty good win. He now needs to take on someone more challenging just outside the rankings of the middleweight division. So GM3, Andre Petroski. Let's see how good the grappling of Andre Petroski really is. Is it good enough to beat the legend of GM3? Moving on to another matchup. Angela Hill got a big win over Lupita Godinez. Saved her career. She's now at a whopping record of 14-12. What an absolute savage. I feel as though she should be looking to take on Luana Pinheiro in the strawweight division. She's fought so many of these other girls, and it's like she kind of has to just be the person that they sort of feed upcoming contenders to at this point, even though she did just win against Lupita Godinez. I reckon she would win against Luana Pinheiro, but I think the UFC are just going to have to keep rolling the dice. Angela Hill, Luana Pinheiro. Luana Pinheiro's 2-0 in the women's strawweight division. Got a good win over Sam Hughes, I guess, in her last fight. And, Sam Hughes, I think, is on a win streak right now. So that win aged pretty well. Let's do Angela Hill, Luana Pinheiro. Roll the dice again with a contender against Angela Hill. And if she wins that one, then we can start talking about fights back in the rankings in the top 10 and top 15. Moving on to another fight. Azamat Murzakanov. Underrated performance on that card. I feel like people were so shook by the main and co-main event and maybe even Meerschaert's win. Azamat Murzakanov savagely beat Devin Clark. Amazing performance by him. And he didn't take too much damage either, so I think he can come back in December. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can come back because he's an older guy, so I want to rush along his career if we can. And I think he should be taking on a tough test in a division that he's in, light heavyweight. I think he needs a bit more of a jump up the rankings. Devin Clark was a big jump up, but we need one more fight outside the rankings, and then we can start looking for ranked opponents for Azamat Murzakanov. I believe he is now 2-0 in the UFC, but he's so good outside of it that he's rapidly jumping up, and Devin Clark is a big jump up. I think Devin Clark's in the top 25 of the light heavyweight division, so I feel like Azamat Murzakanov should be taking on OSP, who's also in the top 20 of the light heavyweight division. Let him destroy OSP's life and career, and then we can start moving on to ranked opponents after that. OSP's coming off a win against Shogun Rua, and he seems to just be the perennial test for many an upcoming contender in the light heavyweight division. Kill him with Azamat Murzakanov, unleash Murzakanov on OSP, and have him finish him off for good, hopefully. And then we can move on to ranked opponents for Azamat Murzakanov. OSP has been the stepping stone for Dominick Reyes, Jamal Hill. The list goes on with guys. Even Nikita Krylov lost to him at first as a stepping stone and then won as a stepping stone later on and got the revenge and passed by him. A lot of light heavyweight contenders have to go through the OSP challenge, and I feel like Azamat Murzakanov should be next. Moving on. Up the card or down the card, Josh Quinlan, Roydie McGee himself, got a big win over Jason Witt by KO in the first round. Typical though, Jason Witt hasn't got the best of chins, let's be real. But it's a good win nevertheless, and I think Josh Quinlan at welterweight should be looking for another challenge. Not so big of a challenge yet though, let's calm down. He's a young guy, he's got some potential moving forward in his career. So, we move him up a little bit, not much. I'm not talking Jeremiah Wells, Ian Gary, anyone like that. I'm talking we move him up a tiny bit, and then we can start looking at better names, and I think that move up a tiny bit is against Orion Koshke, who had a win around the same time. Josh Quinlan can stay active. Orion Koshke didn't take too much damage against Blood Diamond a couple of weeks ago, so he can get back in there relatively soon, but he did get wobbled at one point, so I say the last card of the year in December, Josh Quinlan, Orion Koshke, Christmas present for both of them, have a matchup before Christmas and the holidays, and get one in before the end of the year. I think that'd be a great matchup. I'm looking forward to it, and I think Josh Quinlan would win. So let's move him forward against a guy like Orion Koshke, and then see where we go from there. Moving on to another matchup, which is Martin Bidet, the thief of the card, did not beat Lucas Bresky. Lucas Bresky nearly won every round. It's a brutal robbery, one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. But Martin Bidet is the winner, I guess. And now I'd like to see him take on Walt Harris. As a punishment for his crimes. Because his boxing looked so good against Bresky. And his striking defense looked amazing. And he's so fast early on. I think Walt Harris would be a great matchup. Martin Bidet versus Walt Harris. There we go. Like and subscribe. It makes sense as well, to be fair. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Could we get Marlon Vera versus Sean O'Malley too? If I'm anyone who's fighting Marlon Vera though, 3-rounder. No 5-rounders. 3-rounder, you've got a great chance. Massive chance. 5-rounder, you've got problems. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.